The morning started like any other on New Geneva Station. Captain Sarah Chun sipped her coffee while reviewing cargo manifests in the observation deck, watching the blue-white glow of Earth-Sun filter through the station's massive windows. Ships from dozens of worlds docked and departed in an endless dance of commerce and diplomacy. Humans had finally found their place among the stars, or so they thought. Sarah had been running freight between the outer colonies for 8 years now, ever since humanity joined the Galactic Council. It was honest work, moving supplies to terraforming projects and bringing rare minerals back to the core worlds. Her ship, the Perseverance, wasn't much to look at, but she was fast and reliable. Sarah's crew of 6 had become like family during their long hauls through hyperspace. The peace was shattered when her communicator buzzed with an urgent message from Earth Central Command. Sarah's coffee mug slipped from her hands, floating in the station's low gravity as she read the words that would change everything. All human vessels are ordered to return to the Sol system immediately. The Galactic Council has issued Emergency Directive 847. Compliance is mandatory. Sarah's blood ran cold. Emergency directives were rare, usually reserved for galaxy-wide threats like the Void Swarm incursions 50 years ago. She quickly patched into the station's communication array to get more information. What she found made her stomach drop. The Galactic Council had declared humanity a developing species and revoked their membership. Effective immediately, humans were banned from hyperspace travel beyond the Sol system. All human colonies outside of Earth's solar system were to be evacuated within 30 days. The Council claimed it was for humanity's own protection, citing rapid expansion concerns and cultural instability. Sarah stared at the screen in disbelief. Humanity had 17 thriving colonies spread across 43 light years. New Geneva Station alone housed 2 million people. The agricultural world of harvest supplied food to 6 systems. The mining operations on Titan's Dream employed 500,000 workers. How could they possibly evacuate everyone in 30 days? She rushed to the docking bay, where her crew was loading cargo for their next run to the Kepler colonies. Marcus Rodriguez, her first officer, looked up from his tablet as she approached. His dark eyes immediately picked up on her distress. "Captain, you look like you've seen a ghost." "Worse." Sarah handed him the emergency directive. "We need to get back to Earth. Now." Marcus read quickly, his face growing pale. "This has got to be some kind of mistake. The Council can't just kick us out. We've been members for 15 years. Apparently they can." Sarah watched as her engineer, Kim Park, emerged from the cargo hold covered in grease. "Kim, drop everything. We're leaving for Earth immediately." Kim wiped her hands on a rag, confusion evident on her young face. "But we're supposed to pick up the medical supplies for new series. They're expecting us in 3 days. Change of plans." Sarah activated her comm unit. "All hands, return to ship immediately. Emergency departure in 1 hour." As her crew scrambled to prepare for departure, Sarah made her way to the station commander's office. Admiral Peterson was a gruff man in his 60s who had overseen New Geneva's operations since its construction. When Sarah entered his office, she found him hunched over multiple communication screens, his face red with anger. "Sarah, thank God you're here." Peterson looked up from his screens. "Tell me you have some good news." "Afraid not, Admiral. I'm guessing you've heard about the directive?" Peterson slammed his fist on his desk. 30 days. They want us to evacuate 30 million people in 30 days. Do they have any idea what they're asking? Sarah pulled up a chair. Admiral Peterson had always been straight with her, and she needed information. What's really going on here? This can't just be about rapid expansion. Humanity's been growing slowly and carefully. Peterson's expression grew dark. Politics, Sarah. Pure and simple. 3 weeks ago, Human Ambassador Williams proposed a motion to investigate the Antari trade monopolies. Apparently, some species didn't like that very much. The Antari were one of the founding members of the Galactic Council, an ancient species that controlled most of the rare mineral trade in the galaxy. Their ships were everywhere, their influence vast. Sarah had always wondered how they managed to maintain such favorable trading agreements. So this is retaliation? Gets worse. Peterson called up another screen. The Zorati delegation walked out of the council session when Williams presented evidence of price fixing. 2 days later, the hegemony started making noise about human military buildup. Yesterday, 5 species formally requested our expulsion. Sarah felt a chill run down her spine. The Zorati hegemony was the council's military arm, feared across the galaxy for their ruthless efficiency. If they were taking an interest in humanity, it meant trouble. What evidence did Williams have? Shipping records, communication intercepts, financial transfers. Ironclad proof that the Antari have been manipulating mineral prices for decades. The council should have been celebrating the exposure of such massive corruption. Peterson's voice grew bitter. Instead, they're throwing us out. Sarah's mind raced. Admiral, what if this isn't just about trade? What if they're afraid of something else? Peterson leaned back in his chair. I've been thinking the same thing. Humans have been advancing fast, Sarah. Maybe too fast for some people's comfort. Our quantum drive technology is more efficient than anything the Council has seen. Our AI systems are decades ahead of the standard models. Our population growth has been explosive, but we've shared everything with the Council. All our research, all our advances. Exactly. Peterson's eyes narrowed. And now they want us contained before we become a real threat. A new message flashed on Peterson's screen. He read it quickly, his face growing even paler. It's from the Zorati Fleet Command. They're dispatching a monitoring force to ensure compliance with the evacuation order. 50 warships, ETA 72 hours. Sarah stood up abruptly. Monitoring force? They mean invasion fleet. That's how I read it too. Peterson began typing rapidly on his console. Sarah, I need you to do something. Take the Perseverance and get to the outer colonies. Warn them what's coming. Help coordinate the evacuations. What about you and the station? We'll hold things together here as long as we can. But, Sarah, if the Zorati start shooting, don't try to be a hero. Get our people out of there. Sarah nodded grimly. She had always known that humanity's place in the galaxy was precarious, but she never imagined it would end like this. As she made her way back to her ship, she could see the fear spreading throughout the station. Families huddled around news screens. Cargo handlers stood idle as shipping schedules collapsed, and security forces prepared for the worst. The Perseverance launched from New Geneva 30 minutes ahead of schedule. As they cleared the station's traffic control zone, Sarah watched dozens of other human ships burning hard for the hyperspace jump points. Some were heading for Earth, following the evacuation order. Others, like hers, were heading deeper into human space to warn the colonies. Jump coordinates locked in for harvest. Announcer navigator, Lieutenant Torres. Ready when you are, Captain. Take us out, Torres. Sarah settled into her command chair as the familiar hum of the hyperspace engines filled the ship. Maximum burn. Time is not our friend. As the Perseverance slipped into hyperspace, Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that they were already too late. The galaxy was vast, and news traveled slowly between systems. By the time they reached the outer colonies, the Zorati fleet might already be there. Her chief science officer, Dr. Amanda Foster, joined her on the bridge. Foster was in her 40s, a former council researcher who had joined Sarah's crew 3 years ago. Her knowledge of galactic politics was invaluable. Captain, I've been analyzing the council's formal declaration. The language is very specific. They're not just revoking our membership. They're declaring us a potential threat to galactic stability. Sarah frowned. What does that mean legally? Under council law, it means they can use force to contain us. Military force. Foster's voice was grim. The Zorati aren't coming to monitor the evacuation, Captain. They're coming to enforce it. And if we resist, then we're classified as hostile. Fair game for extermination. The bridge fell silent except for the hum of the engines. Sarah stared out at the swirling colors of hyperspace, thinking about the 17 colonies that were about to become battlegrounds. Millions of humans who had built new lives among the stars, only to have them ripped away by political maneuvering and fear. Dr. Foster, what do you know about human military capabilities compared to the Zorati? Foster consulted her tablet. On paper, we don't stand a chance. The Zorati have been fighting wars for 3,000 years. Their ships are bigger, their weapons more powerful, their numbers overwhelming. But Foster looked up with a slight smile. Human ships are faster and more maneuverable. Our AI systems give us tactical advantages they've never seen. And, Captain, there's something else. Humans have never fought a real war. We've had conflicts, skirmishes, but never faced total extinction. I think the Council might be underestimating what happens when you corner a species that has everything to lose. Sarah nodded slowly. She had seen humans work miracles when their backs were against the wall. The terraforming of New Geneva had been declared impossible until human engineers found a way. The quantum drive breakthrough had come from a teenager working in his garage. When humans were desperate, they became dangerous. Time to harvest system. 16 hours at maximum burn, Torres replied. Good. Dr. Foster, I want you to start working on something. If the Zorati want to force us out of our homes, let's make sure they pay a price for it. What kind of surprises can we cook up with our cargo bay full of mining equipment? Foster's smile grew wider. Oh, Captain, I think I have some ideas. As the Perseverance raced through hyperspace toward the agricultural world of harvest, Sarah began to plan. The Galactic Council had made a terrible mistake. They thought they were containing a dangerous species. What they were actually doing was creating one. The humans had been peaceful members of the galactic community for 15 years, sharing their knowledge and working to build a better universe for everyone. But if the Council wanted war, they would discover something that had been forgotten in the long peace between stars. Humanity had evolved in a world where everything wanted to kill them. They had clawed their way to the top of their food chain through intelligence, determination, and a refusal to give up when things looked hopeless. Those traits didn't disappear just because they had learned to travel between stars. Sarah opened a communication channel to Earth, knowing it would take hours for her message to arrive. When the time came, humanity would need to act as one. The scattered colonies would need to coordinate their response. The home fleet would need to be prepared for battle. This is Captain Sarah Chun of the merchant vessel Perseverance. She began recording. I'm transmitting to all human ships and stations. The Galactic Council has declared war on us, whether they want to admit it or not. They think they can scatter us to the winds and forget we ever existed. They're wrong. She paused, thinking about the words that would rally her species to action. We came to the stars in peace, but we won't leave in chains. Every human ship, every colony, every station needs to prepare for what's coming. The galaxy is about to learn why Earth spent 10,000 years teaching its children to fight for survival. Sarah ended the recording and leaned back in her chair. 16 hours to harvest. Then the real work would begin. The Galactic Council wanted to see what humans were capable of when they felt threatened. They were about to find out. The bridge crew worked with quiet efficiency as the Perseverance continued its race through hyperspace. Sarah could see the determination in their faces, the same look humans had worn when they first looked up at the stars and decided to reach for them. The galaxy had given humanity everything they had ever dreamed of. Now it was trying to take it all away. That was going to be a problem. The Harvest System emergency beacon was already transmitting when the Perseverance dropped out of hyperspace. Sarah's heart sank as she saw the chaos unfolding before them. 3 massive Zorati heavy cruisers hung in orbit around the agricultural world, their dark hulls bristling with weapons. Smaller human ships fled the system in all directions, loaded with whatever refugees they could carry. Captain, I'm picking up distress calls from the surface, reported Communications Officer Jenny Walsh. The Zorati landed ground forces 6 hours ago. They're forcing evacuations at gunpoint. Sarah gritted her teeth. The alien fleet had arrived faster than anyone expected. Any sign of resistance? Some of the colonial defense ships try to fight back, Torres said grimly. I'm reading debris fields where they used to be. Dr. Foster pulled up tactical displays on her screen. The Zorati aren't taking prisoners, Captain. They're bombing agricultural centers, destroying infrastructure. They want to make sure nothing useful remains. Sarah watched the long-range sensors as another human transport ship limped away from the planet, its hull scarred by energy weapons. The Perseverance was a civilian cargo hauler, no match for military cruisers. But she couldn't just run away while her people were being slaughtered. Can we raise Governor Martinez on harvest? Walsh worked her console frantically. I'm trying, Captain, but the Zorati are jamming most communications. Wait, I'm getting something. The main screen flickered to life, showing the haggard face of Governor Carlos Martinez. Behind him, Sarah could see smoke and the glow of fires. Explosions echoed in the background. Sarah, thank God. You need to get out of here. The Zorati aren't just enforcing evacuations. They're butchering anyone who resists. My security forces tried to protect the civilian evacuation centers. Martinez paused as another explosion shook his building. They didn't stand a chance. Governor, what's your status? How many people still need evacuation? 200,000, maybe more. The Zorati destroyed our main spaceport and most of the transport ships. We've got families hiding in the agricultural tunnels, but they'll be found soon enough. Sarah made a decision that would have seemed impossible 12 hours ago. Governor, I want you to gather everyone you can at the old mining complex in Sector 7. We're coming to get you. Sarah, you can't take on 3 cruisers with a cargo ship. Watch me. Sarah cut the connection and turned to her crew. Dr. Foster, tell me you've got something that can hurt those Zorati ships. Foster had been working frantically since they arrived in the system. The mining equipment we picked up at New Geneva includes industrial-grade quantum drill heads. If we can modify them properly, they'll punch through military armor like paper. How long? Give me 2 hours to rig the guidance systems. You have 30 minutes. Marcus, plot a course for the planet. Keep us in the asteroid field until Foster's ready. First Officer Rodriguez looked concerned. Captain, even with weapons, we're still talking about 3 heavy cruisers against 1 cargo ship. Sarah smiled grimly. Then, we better make sure they don't see us coming. Kim, how much power can you squeeze out of our engines? Chief Engineer Park was already running calculations. If I overcharge the quantum coils, I can give you a 40% boost. But it'll burn out the whole system after about 10 minutes. Perfect. We only need 5. As the Perseverance maneuvered through the outer asteroid field, Sarah watched the tactical display showing the Zorati patrol patterns. The alien ships moved in perfect formation, confident in their superiority. They had no reason to fear a single human cargo vessel. That was going to be their first mistake. Dr. Foster worked with desperate efficiency, converting industrial mining tools into ship-to-ship weapons. The quantum drill heads were designed to bore through solid rock at the molecular level. Applied to starship armor, they would create devastating breaches in enemy hulls. Weapons ready, Captain, Foster reported. I've rigged 6 drill heads as projectile weapons. They won't be as accurate as proper missiles, but at close range, they'll do the job. Close range being how close? Less than 5,000 kilometers, preferably much less. Sarah nodded. Standard engagement range for space battles was usually over 50,000 kilometers. They would have to get suicide clothes to use their improvised weapons effectively. Kim, bring the engines to full overcharge. Marcus, I want you to calculate a slingshot trajectory around Harvest Moon. We're going to use gravity to accelerate our approach. Captain, Torres spoke up from the navigation station. Even with the moon assist, the Zorati will detect us long before we reach weapons range. Not if we're hiding behind something. Sarah called up the system display. What's the largest piece of debris from the destroyed human ships? Torres checked his sensors. Looks like the remains of the merchant cruiser New Hope. She was trying to evacuate civilians when they hit her. The bow section is still mostly intact. Sarah felt a pang of grief for the lost crew, but she pushed it aside. There would be time to mourn later. Perfect. We're going to ride that wreckage right into the middle of their formation. The next 20 minutes were spent in careful preparation. The Perseverance matched course, and speed with the drifting wreckage of the New Hope, using the larger ship's bulk to mask their approach. Kim worked miracles in the engine room, coaxing every erg of power from their overstressed systems. Dr. Foster made final adjustments to their improvised weapons. Beginning approach run, Marcus announced. Zority formation bearing 27 Mark 8. Range, 30,000 kilometers, and closing. Sarah could feel the tension on the bridge as they crept closer to the alien warships. The Zority cruisers were massive, each one over a kilometer long and bristling with weapons. Their dark hulls seemed to absorb light, making them look like holes in space. 15,000 kilometers, Torres reported. Still no indication they've detected us. 10,000 kilometers. Sarah gripped her command chair. At this range, they were close enough to see the individual weapon ports along the Zority hulls. If the aliens detected them now, the Perseverance would be vaporized in seconds. 5,000 kilometers. Weapons range achieved. All stop. Release the wreckage and bring us about for attack run. Sarah activated the ship's intercom. All hands, prepare for combat maneuvers. This is going to get rough. The Perseverance broke away from the debris and accelerated directly toward the nearest Zority cruiser. Kim's overcharged engines pushed them forward at speeds no cargo ship was designed to handle. The hull groaned under the stress, but held together. 4,000 kilometers. Target acquired. 3,000. Sarah watched the tactical display as warning indicators began flashing on the Zority ship. They were detecting the human vessel's approach, but it was too late to bring their main weapons to bear. 2,000 kilometers. Firing. Dr. Foster's improvised weapons launched in sequence. 6 quantum drill heads streaking across the short distance between ships. The Zority cruiser's point defense systems activated, energy beams lancing out to destroy the incoming projectiles. But the drill heads were small, fast, and hard to track. 3 made it through. The first drill head punched through the cruiser's forward armor and continued burning into the ship's interior. Emergency atmosphere vented from the breach in a glowing stream. The second hit near the bridge superstructure, and the third penetrated the engine compartment. Direct hits. The cruiser is losing power to its main drives. But Sarah's celebration was short-lived. The other 2 Zority ships were already turning to engage, and their weapons were designed for ship-to-ship combat. Energy bolts larger than the Perseverance itself began filling the space around them. Evasive maneuvers. Full power to all systems. The cargo ship twisted through space like a thing possessed, Kim's engine modifications allowing impossible acceleration and course changes. Energy blasts passed close enough to overload their sensors, but somehow they remained intact. Captain, message coming from the surface, Walsh reported. Governor Martinez says they've got 8,000 people ready for pickup at the mining complex. Tell them we're on our way. Marcus, plot a course for atmospheric entry. We're going in hot. The Perseverance dove toward Harvest's atmosphere, with 2 Zority cruisers in pursuit. Energy weapons lit up the space behind them as the alien ships tried to destroy the impossible human vessel that had dared to attack them. Sarah watched the altimeter drop as they entered the upper atmosphere. Harvest was a beautiful world, all green agricultural valleys and clear blue seas. Or it had been before the Zority arrived. Now she could see the black smoke rising from bombed cities and the scarred landscape where alien forces had landed. Atmospheric entry in 30 seconds, Torres announced. The Zority ships are breaking off pursuit. They can't risk following us down in ships that size, Dr. Foster explained. Too much chance of collateral damage to their own ground forces. Sarah nodded grimly. That gave him a window, but not a large one. The Zority would have atmospheric fighters and ground-based weapons to deal with them soon enough. The Perseverance screamed through Harvest's atmosphere at dangerous speeds, emergency heat shields glowing white-hot as they shed velocity. Sarah had never attempted an atmospheric insertion at such velocity, but they had no choice. Every second counted. Mining complex in sight, Marcus reported. I can see human transports on the ground. Looks like Governor Martinez kept his word. The Perseverance touched down in a cloud of superheated dust and steam. Before the ship had fully settled, the cargo bay doors were opening and evacuation ramps extending. Sarah could see streams of refugees running from hidden positions toward their ship. Governor Martinez was among the first aboard, his uniform torn and his face streaked with soot. "Sarah, we've got families with children, wounded civilians, some of my security forces. Maybe 9,000 total. How long do we have?" "Zorati ground forces are 15 minutes behind us. Maybe less." Sarah activated her intercom. "All crew, assist with refugee boarding. We launch in 10 minutes whether we're ready or not." The next 10 minutes were organized chaos as thousands of desperate humans crammed into every available space on the cargo ship. Sarah watched from the bridge as her crew worked miracles, finding room for people in storage compartments, maintenance shafts, and emergency shelters never designed for passengers. Captain Zorati atmospheric fighters approaching from the east, Torres warned. 6 ships closing fast. "Kim, how are those engines looking?" "Still functional, but barely. I can give you one more hard burn, then we're flying on fumes and prayers." Sarah watched the approaching fighters on her tactical display. They were smaller than the cruisers, but heavily armed and designed for atmospheric combat. The Perseverance wouldn't stand a chance in a dogfight. "Launch immediately. Full power to shields and engines." The cargo ship lifted off just as the first energy blast from the Zorati fighters struck the ground where they had been sitting. Sarah felt the ship shudder as shrapnel from the explosions peppered their hull. "Climb. Get us above the atmosphere." The overloaded Perseverance struggled to gain altitude with 9,000 refugees aboard. The Zorati fighters circled like predators, energy weapons flashing as they tried to bring down the fleeing human ship. Kim's engine screamed in protest, but somehow kept running. "Hull breach on Deck 3, Marcus reported. "Emergency teams are sealing it." "Structural failure in Cargo Bay 2, added Dr. Foster. "We're losing atmospheric pressure." Sarah gritted her teeth as more alarms sounded throughout the ship. They were flying a severely damaged cargo vessel filled with refugees while under attack by military fighters. Any rational analysis said they should be dead already. But humans had never been particularly rational when their survival was at stake. Approaching the edge of space, Torres announced. "The fighters are breaking off." Sarah allowed herself a moment of relief as they cleared Harvest's atmosphere. But it was short-lived. The 2 remaining Zorati cruisers were waiting for them, positioned to intercept any escape route. "Governor, do you have any other ships that made it out of the system?" Martinez consulted a handheld communicator. 3 transports reached the hyperspace jump point 20 minutes ago. They're already gone. We're the last ship in the system. Sarah studied the tactical display. The Zorati cruisers were moving to bracket their position, cutting off access to the hyperspace jump points. In a few minutes, they would be trapped. "Dr. Foster, any more surprises in our cargo bay?" "I'm afraid we used all our improvised weapons on the first cruiser." "But Captain, I've been thinking about our quantum drive system. If we overload it, we might be able to create a localized space distortion." "What kind of distortion?" "The kind that would make the Zorati ships think we jumped to hyperspace when we actually changed course for the outer system." Sarah smiled. "Do it." The next few minutes were critical. Dr. Foster worked frantically to reconfigure their quantum drive while Kim managed the failing engines. The Zorati cruisers closed in, confident they had trapped their prey. "Quantum distortion ready," Foster reported. "On your command. Execute." Space around the Perseverance twisted and warped as their quantum drive released its stored energy in a burst that confused every sensor in the system. For a few crucial seconds, the Zorati ships lost track of their target. It was enough. Sarah ordered a course change toward the outer asteroid belt while the aliens were still scanning empty space for their quantum signature. By the time the Zorati realized they had been fooled, the Perseverance was hidden among the system's outer debris field. "Governor, what's the status of the other human colonies?" Martinez checked his communications equipment. We've been receiving scattered reports. The Zorati have hit new series and Titan's Dream. Admiral Peterson is trying to coordinate evacuations from New Geneva, but there are just too many people and not enough ships. Sarah felt a cold rage building in her chest. The Galactic Council wasn't just forcing humans to leave their homes. They were systematically destroying everything humanity had built among the stars. Captain Dr. Foster said quietly, "I've been monitoring the Zorati communications. They're not planning to let the evacuation succeed." "What do you mean?" "They're positioning fleets at all the hyperspace jump points leading back to Earth. Any human ship trying to leave will be destroyed. They're calling it preventing the spread of human contamination to other systems." Sarah stared at the tactical display, showing the Zorati positions. They had been planning this for weeks, maybe months. The evacuation order was just theater to give them cover for genocide. "Governor, get on every communication channel you can reach. Tell every human ship, every colony, every station what the Zorati are really planning. If we're going to die out here, let's make sure the galaxy knows why." Martinez nodded grimly and began working his communicator. Around them, 9,000 refugees tried to make sense of their new reality. They had been farmers and teachers and engineers just hours ago. Now they were survivors of an alien attack on their world. Sarah looked out at the vast debris field surrounding them and made a decision that would echo across the galaxy. The Galactic Council wanted to erase humanity from the stars. Then humanity would make sure they never forgot the price of that choice. "Dr. Foster, can you establish communication with the other human ships still in the system?" "I think so. The Zorati jamming isn't perfect." "Good, because we're not running anymore. It's time to show these aliens what happens when you corner a species that refuses to go quietly." The Perseverance drifted silently through the asteroid field, its hull scarred and its engines failing. But inside that damaged ship, 9,000 humans began to plan their revenge. The galaxy was about to learn a very painful lesson about underestimating the human spirit. The asteroid field became humanity's hidden fortress over the next 18 hours. Sarah watched in amazement as 7 more human ships limped into their makeshift refuge, each one carrying refugees and stories of Zorati brutality. What started as one cargo ship with 9,000 survivors had become a fleet of 8 vessels with over 30,000 humans. Captain Jake Morrison of the mining ship Deep Striker had perhaps the most disturbing news. His ship had been extracting rare minerals from the outer asteroid belt when the Zorati arrived. Hidden by the massive rock formations, they had watched the aliens destroy evacuation ships without warning. "They're not even bothering with surrender demands," Morrison reported during their encrypted communication conference. "Any human ship that shows up on their sensors gets blown apart immediately." "I saw them destroy a medical transport that was broadcasting emergency codes on all channels." Sarah felt her rage growing colder with each report. Captain Lisa Wong of the research vessel Discovery had witnessed the bombardment of New Series' university complex. Captain Tom Bradley of the freight hauler Manifest Destiny described watching Zorati ground forces execute human farmers who refused to abandon their crops. But it was Dr. Foster who provided the most chilling intelligence. She had been monitoring Galactic Council communications, and the truth was worse than any of them had imagined. The evacuation order was never meant to succeed, Foster explained during their strategy meeting. "I've intercepted communications between the Zorati Fleet Command and the Council leadership. They're calling this Operation Cleansing. The plan is to destroy all human presence outside the Sol system, then blockade Earth permanently." Governor Martinez, who had been coordinating refugee care, looked up in shock. "Blockade Earth? For how long?" "Forever. They want to prevent humans from ever leaving their home system again. The official council record will show that humanity was safely relocated to their world of origin. The reality is that we'll be prisoners on our own planet." Sarah slammed her fist on the table. 23 million humans on 17 worlds, and they plan to murder all of them just to steal our technology and eliminate competition. "It gets worse," Foster continued. The Antari have already started claiming human territories. Our mining rights, our terraforming projects, our research stations. They're dividing up our colonies before the bodies are even cold. The conference fell silent as the implications sank in. This wasn't just ethnic cleansing on a galactic scale. It was the calculated murder of an entire spacefaring civilization for profit. Captain Morrison spoke first. So what do we do? Even if we could somehow warn Earth, there's no way our home fleet can stand against the combined Council forces. We don't run, Sarah said quietly. And we don't hide. We make them pay such a terrible price for this genocide that the galaxy never forgets what happened here. Sarah, we have 8 damaged civilian ships against probably 200 alien warships, Captain Wong protested. I admire the spirit, but we'd be throwing our lives away. Would we? Dr. Foster pulled up a holographic display of the asteroid field. Look around us. We're sitting in the largest collection of raw materials in the harvest system. Iron, nickel, rare earth elements, radioactives. Everything we need to build weapons. Engineer Kim Park, who had been listening quietly, suddenly perked up. Captain, the Deep Striker has industrial fabrication equipment. If we could get access to the Discovery's research labs and the Manifest Destiny's heavy manipulator arms, we could build a weapons factory, Sarah finished. Hidden in an asteroid field where no Zorti sensor can find us. Captain Morrison leaned forward with interest. My fabricators can work with raw materials up to battle steel quality. If we can mine the asteroids and process we could build missile warheads, armor plating, even small spacecraft. The Discovery's quantum computers could design guidance systems and targeting algorithms, added Captain Wong. We've got some of the most advanced AI research equipment in human space. Sarah felt hope building for the first time since this nightmare began. How long would it take? Dr. Foster ran calculations on her tablet. Working around the clock with all 8 ships contributing resources and personnel, we could have our first weapons ready in 72 hours. A significant arsenal in 2 weeks. And what exactly would we do with this arsenal? Governor Martinez asked. Attack Zorti ships? They'll just call for reinforcements. Sarah's smile was cold as deep space. We're not going to attack their ships, Governor. We're going to attack something much more important. She called up a star chart showing the local sector. The Zorti supply depot at Kepler Station is only 6 light-years from here. It services their entire occupation fleet. Food, fuel, ammunition, replacement parts. Everything they need to maintain their genocide campaign. You want to attack a military depot? Morrison asked incredulously. Sarah, that place will be defended by at least a dozen warships. Not if we do it right. Dr. Foster, what do you know about Zorti logistics? Foster consulted her database. They're very centralized. Each fleet depends on a single supply depot for extended operations. If they lose Kepler Station, their ships will have to withdraw to their nearest base, which is, she paused to check, 43 light-years away. Meaning they'd have to abandon the occupation of human space, Sarah concluded. At least temporarily. But, Captain, Governor Martinez objected, even if we could somehow destroy their supply depot, they'd just come back with a bigger fleet. Not if we make the price high enough. Sarah's expression grew harder. We're going to send a message to the Galactic Council that will echo across every star system in known space. The message is simple. Genocide has consequences. Over the next 3 days, the hidden asteroid base transformed into humanity's first deep space weapons factory. The mining ship Deep Striker carved chunks of raw material from the asteroids, while the Manifest Destiny's heavy manipulators moved resources between ships. The Discovery's research equipment designed new weapons while the remaining vessels provided power and workspace. Sarah was amazed at what desperate humans could accomplish when their survival depended on it. Kim Park and her team of engineers created fusion warheads using improvised materials and civilian power systems. Dr. Foster's research team developed guidance computers that could track multiple targets simultaneously. The fabrication teams worked 18-hour shifts to build missile bodies and thruster systems. But The most important work was being done by Captain Wang's communication specialists. They had managed to crack the Zorati fleet communication codes, giving the human rebels access to alien movement schedules and tactical information. The supply convoy from Kepler Station arrives at the Harvest system every 4 days, Wang reported during their evening strategy meeting. Next shipment is due in 36 hours. Standard escort is 2 frigates and a destroyer. Sarah studied the tactical projection. 3 warships for a supply convoy seems excessive. They're getting nervous, Foster explained. Zorati Command knows there are still human ships in the system. They just haven't been able to find us. Perfect. We let the convoy arrive, track their course back to Kepler Station, then follow them home. Morrison frowned. Following them means leaving the protection of the asteroid field. If they detect us in open space. They won't, Sarah said confidently. Because we're not going as 8 separate ships. We're going as one very large asteroid. Kim Park's grin was visible across the conference table. Captain, are you thinking what I think you're thinking? We hollow out one of the larger asteroids, install our ships inside it, and drift right up to Kepler Station. To their sensors, we'll just be another piece of space debris. Dr. Foster was already running calculations. It could work. The asteroid would provide radiation shielding and mask our engine signatures. We could get within weapons range before they realized what we were. How long to prepare the asteroid? 48 hours if we work nonstop, Morrison estimated. But it'll be tight quarters for 30,000 people. Sarah nodded. Make it happen. And start loading every weapon we can build into that rock. When we hit Kepler Station, I want it to be with enough firepower to level a moon. The next 2 days were a blur of desperate activity. The mining teams carved out a hollow space inside a kilometer-wide asteroid large enough to hold all 8 ships. Engineering teams installed life support systems and power conduits throughout the makeshift base. The weapons teams loaded their improvised arsenal into launch tubes carved into the asteroid surface. Governor Martinez coordinated the civilian evacuation into the asteroid's deeper chambers. 30,000 refugees were crammed into spaces never designed for human habitation, but no one complained. They understood that this was their only chance to strike back at the forces that had destroyed their homes. On the morning of the 3rd day, the hidden human fleet emerged from the asteroid field, disguised as a single large rock drifting through space. To any observer, it would look like just another piece of debris knocked loose by the ongoing battle in the Harvest system. Sarah stood on the Perseverance's bridge, now located deep inside their asteroid fortress, watching sensor displays that showed the Zorati supply convoy approaching right on schedule. 3 warships and a massive cargo vessel carrying the resources needed to continue their campaign against humanity. Convoy is maintaining standard approach vector, Torres reported. They should pass within 2,000 kilometers of our position. Perfect. Maintain drift profile. Let them think we're just another rock. The Zorati ships passed by without so much as a sensor ping directed at their disguised fleet. Sarah waited until they were well clear before ordering course corrections to follow their trail back to Kepler Station. Time a target? She asked. At current drift rate, 18 hours, Torres calculated. We'll arrive during their night cycle when sensor coverage is reduced. Sarah nodded. 18 hours to prepare for an attack that would either save humanity or get them all killed. She activated the ship-wide intercom. Knowing her words were being heard by 30,000 refugees and 7 other ship crews. People of humanity, this is Captain Sarah Chun. In 18 hours, we're going to do something that the galaxy will never forget. We're going to show the Galactic Council that humans don't go quietly into the dark. We're going to prove that genocide has a price. She paused, thinking about the worlds they had lost, the friends who were already dead, the civilization that was being erased from the stars. The Zorati think they can murder us and steal our worlds without consequence. The Antari believe they can profit from our deaths. The Galactic Council assumes that might makes right. Today we teach them all a different lesson. Throughout the asteroid fortress, humans of all ages listen to their captain's words. farmers who had lost their fields, scientists whose research stations were destroyed, children who had never known any world but the colonies. All of them united by loss and the desire for justice. When we attack Kepler Station, we're not just striking a military target. We're striking a blow for every species in the galaxy that has been oppressed by the strong. We're proving that the smallest force can change the course of history if it has the will to fight. Sarah looked around the bridge at her crew, these people who had become her family during their years among the stars. Each face showed determination mixed with fear, courage tempered by the knowledge that they might not survive the next day. The galaxy thinks humanity is just another weak species to be pushed around and forgotten. Tomorrow, we remind them that humans have never been easy prey. Tomorrow, we show them what happens when you mistake patience for weakness, diplomacy for cowardice, and civilization for submission. The asteroid fortress continued its silent drift toward Kepler Station, carrying 30,000 humans and enough improvised weapons to devastate a military installation. Inside the hollowed-out rock, engineers made final preparations while refugees said prayers and said goodbye to loved ones. Sarah closed the intercom channel and returned to studying the tactical displays. Kepler Station was one of the largest military installations in the sector, defended by multiple warships and orbital weapons platforms. Their chances of success were minimal by any rational calculation. But humans had stopped being rational the moment the Galactic Council decided to commit genocide. Dr. Foster, final weapons check. 200 fusion warheads, 600 kinetic penetrators, 50 quantum drill missiles. Plus whatever surprises the other ships have cooked up. Kim, engine status? All ships show green across the board. We'll have full power when we need it. Sarah nodded and settled into her command chair. 17 hours until they reached Kepler Station. 17 hours until humanity either struck its first blow for freedom or died trying. Either way, the galaxy would remember this day. All hands, prepare for combat operations. It's time to teach the Council what human rage looks like when it's properly motivated. The asteroid fortress drifted onward through the darkness, carrying the hopes and fury of an entire species toward its destiny among the stars. Kepler Station hung in the void like a metallic spider, its 8 massive arms extending from a central hub, bristling with weapons and sensors. Each arm terminated in docking facilities large enough to service heavy cruisers, while the hub housed the administrative and command centers for Zorati military operations throughout the sector. Sarah studied the tactical display as their disguised asteroid fortress drifted toward the station. Long-range sensors showed 16 warships docked at various arms, with patrol craft moving in regular patterns around the installation's perimeter. The station's defensive grid included energy weapons capable of vaporizing capital ships. Population estimate? She asked Dr. Foster. 60,000 Zorati military personnel, plus civilian contractors and support staff. Total station population around 100,000. Sarah felt a moment of hesitation. She was planning to attack a target with more inhabitants than some human colonies. But then she remembered the bombed cities on Harvest, the murdered evacuation ships, the systematic destruction of everything humanity had built among the stars. Any indication they've detected us? Negative, Torres reported. We're still reading as cosmic debris on their sensors. Estimated arrival at optimal attack position in 4 hours. Governor Martinez joined Sarah on the bridge, his face showing the strain of organizing 30,000 refugees in cramped conditions. Captain, I've been getting reports from the other ships. Morale is high, but people are scared. Many of them have never been in combat before. Neither have I, Sarah admitted. But we're about to learn together. The next 4 hours passed with agonizing slowness. Engineering teams made final checks on weapons systems, while communications specialists monitored Zorati fleet movements. Dr. Foster's research team had identified critical structural points on Kepler Station where concentrated attacks could cause maximum damage. Captain Morrison's voice crackled over the intercom from the Deep Striker. All mining teams report ready. Asteroid boring charges are positioned and armed. Captain Wong from the Discovery added, targeting computers show green across all systems. We have firing solutions on primary objectives. Sarah felt the weight of command settling on her shoulders. In a few minutes, she would give the order that would commit humanity to open warfare against the Galactic Council. There would be no going back after that. All ships, this is Captain Shun. Begin final attack preparations. Remember, we get one chance at this. Make every shot count. The disguised asteroid fortress drifted to within 1,500 kilometers of Kepler Station before Sarah gave the order that changed everything. Execute Operation Payback. All ships attack. The asteroid suddenly split apart like a deadly flower, revealing 8 human ships that immediately began pouring weapons fire into the unsuspecting station. Fusion warheads detonated against the central hub, while kinetic penetrators punched through armor, plating like bullets through paper. Quantum drill missiles bored deep into critical systems before exploding. The first minute of the attack was devastating. 3 of the station's 8 arms suffered catastrophic damage as human weapons found their targets with surgical precision. Emergency klaxons wailed across Zority communication channels as damage control teams struggled to respond to attacks coming from multiple directions simultaneously. Direct hit on the primary power generator. Foster reported. Station-wide power fluctuations detected. Arm number 4 is losing structural integrity. Torres added. Massive hull breaches along its entire length. But the Zority weren't helpless victims. Military training kicked in as the alien defenders began coordinating their response. Point defense systems that had been caught off guard began tracking and destroying incoming missiles. The docked warships started emergency launch procedures. Zority destroyer launching from Arm 6. Marcus warned. 2 frigates separating from Arm 3. Sarah watched the tactical display as red icons representing enemy ships began moving toward their small fleet. All ships evasive maneuvers. Don't let them bracket us. The next few minutes were chaos as 8 civilian ships tried to fight 16 military vessels in the confined space around Kepler Station. The humans had the advantage of surprise and superior weapons, but the Zority had numbers and experience. The merchant ship Golden Horizon took the first hit, a direct energy blast that vaporized her entire forward section. Captain Bradley's voice cut across the communication channel. Golden Horizon is breaking up, evacuating to escape pods. Sarah gritted her teeth as she watched 20 escape pods jettison from the dying ship. 20 pods carrying nearly 4,000 refugees. There was no way to recover them during the battle. Perseverance, evasive pattern Delta. Marcus called out as energy blasts bracketed their position. Kim's rebuilt engines responded with impossible acceleration, throwing everyone against their restraints as they dodged between the station's massive arms. Dr. Foster worked frantically at her weapons console, firing quantum drill missiles at Station Command Center. 6 missiles streaked toward the central hub, the molecular-level warheads designed to punch through any known armor. Made it through the defensive fire. The explosions lit up space as the station's command center suffered critical damage. Secondary explosions rippled along the hub as power conduits overloaded and ammunition stores detonated. Station command center is gone, Torres reported. They're operating on emergency protocols now. Captain Morrison's voice came over the channel. Deep Striker taking heavy fire. We've lost main engines and half our weapon systems. Sarah could see the mining ship drifting helplessly as Zority frigates closed in for the kill. Wong, can you cover them? Already on it. The research vessel Discovery had been modified with salvaged weapons from the asteroid base. Her improvised armament might not match military standards, but it was enough to drive off the frigates threatening Morrison's ship. The battle raged for 20 minutes before Sarah realized they were winning. Half of Kepler Station was either destroyed or crippled, and 6 Zority ships had been reduced to debris. But the price was terrible. 2 human ships were gone, and the remaining 6 were all showing battle damage. Captain Chun, this is Admiral Vextar of the Zorati 7th Fleet. A harsh alien voice spoke across all communication frequencies. You have committed an act of war against the Galactic Council. Surrender immediately, and you'll be granted quick deaths. Sarah keyed her own transmitter, making sure her response would be heard throughout the system. Admiral, this is Captain Sarah Chun of the Human Resistance Fleet. Your forces have committed genocide against my people. Our response is proportional. Resistance Fleet? The alien admiral's voice carried a note of confusion. You are 8 civilian vessels against the might of the Council. You cannot resist. Watch us. Sarah cut the channel and turned to her crew. All ships, prepare for withdrawal. We've done enough damage here. Captain, what about the escape pods from Golden Horizon? Governor Martinez asked. Sarah's heart ached, but she had to think about the bigger picture. We can't recover them without risking the remaining 26,000 refugees. They'll have to hope the Zorati show mercy. Ma'am, Torres interrupted, I'm picking up new contacts on long-range sensors. Looks like a council fleet approaching the system. Estimated arrival in 6 hours. How many ships? At least 50, maybe more. Multiple species represented. Dr. Foster looked up from her damage control reports. Captain, we can't fight a fleet that size. Our improvised weapons are nearly exhausted, and half our ships are barely space-worthy. Sarah nodded grimly. We're not going to fight them. We're going to do something much worse. She activated the fleet-wide communication channel, addressing all surviving human ships. People of Earth, this is Captain Chun. Today we prove that humanity will not go quietly into extinction. We've struck the first blow against the forces that seek to erase us from the galaxy. Throughout the damaged fleet, 30,000 refugees listened to their leader's words. These people had lost everything, but they had also discovered something precious in the depths of space, the knowledge that they were not helpless victims. Kepler Station is burning. 16 Zorti warships are debris. The galaxy now knows that humans can fight back when we're pushed too far. But this is just the beginning. Sarah called up a star chart on her main display, showing the locations of major Galactic Council installations throughout local space. We're going to hit their supply depots, their communication centers, their military bases. Every world that profits from human deaths will learn to fear our name. Captain Wang's voice came over the channel. Captain, the Council fleet will hunt us down within days. We can't hide in asteroid fields forever. You're right. We can't hide. So we're going to do something the Council never expected from a primitive species like humanity. Sarah's smile was cold as the void between stars. We're going to go home and get reinforcements. The surviving human ships began moving away from the burning wreckage of Kepler Station, their courses set for the hyperspace jump point that would take them back toward Earth. Behind them, Zorati damage control teams worked frantically to save what remained of their primary supply depot. Dr. Foster monitored enemy communications as they fled the system. Zorati Command is calling for immediate reinforcements from all sectors. They're treating this as a major military emergency. Good, Sarah replied. Fear is a useful weapon. The more afraid they are, the more mistakes they'll make. As the human fleet approached the hyperspace jump point, Sarah opened a final communication channel to the galaxy at large. This message would be transmitted on every frequency, ensuring that every species in the Council would receive it. To the members of the Galactic Council, this is Captain Sarah Chun of the Human Resistance. Your forces have murdered millions of innocent civilians in an unprovoked act of genocide. You believed that humans were weak, isolated, and helpless. You were wrong. The jump point flickered as the ships prepared to enter hyperspace. Sarah continued her message as space began to warp around them. Today you learned that humanity can strike back. Tomorrow you will learn that we can do much worse. Every council installation, every military base, every world that participates in our genocide will become a target. You wanted to see what humans are capable of when threatened with extinction? You're about to find out. The last thing the Zorati sensors detected before the human ships vanished was a final transmission that would haunt the Council's dreams for years to come. This is not over. This is just the beginning. The Earth remembers. As the human fleet jumped to hyperspace, Sarah sat back in her command chair and allowed herself a moment of satisfaction. They had struck the first blow against the forces trying to destroy humanity. 6 ships carrying 26,000 refugees were racing back toward Earth with proof that resistance was possible. But Sarah also knew the real war was just beginning. The Council would respond with overwhelming force, determined to crush any human resistance before it could spread. Earth's home fleet was powerful, but could it stand against the combined might of dozens of alien worlds? Dr. Foster approached her with a data pad showing their current status. Captain, we've lost 2 ships and nearly 4,000 people. Our remaining vessels are badly damaged and running low on supplies. Even if we reach Earth safely, I'm not sure what kind of reception we'll receive. Sarah considered this. Earth's government had been trying to negotiate a peaceful resolution to the crisis. Her attacks on Council forces might be seen as dangerous escalation rather than justified resistance. Dr. Foster, prepare a complete record of everything we've witnessed. Every atrocity, every act of genocide, every civilian ship they destroyed. When we reach Earth, the government needs to understand exactly what kind of enemy we're facing. And if they order us to surrender, try to trade us for peace. Sarah's expression hardened. Then, they'll learn that some humans refuse to be traded. We've seen what the Council's mercy looks like. Never again. The journey back to Earth would take 4 days through hyperspace. For days to plan their next moves, repair their damaged ships, and prepare for a war that would determine humanity's fate among the stars. As the Perseverance settled into the strange non-reality of hyperspace, Sarah looked around at her exhausted crew and felt a fierce pride. These people had done the impossible. They had taken civilian ships and improvised weapons and struck a devastating blow against forces that had murdered millions. Soon they would be home. Soon they would stand before Earth's leaders and demand justice for their fallen colonies. Soon the real war would begin. The galaxy had made a terrible mistake when it tried to erase humanity from the stars. Sarah Chun and her resistance fleet were going to make sure they paid for that mistake in full. The Earth remembers, and the Earth would have its revenge. Earth hung before them like a blue jewel against the star-scattered darkness, more beautiful than Sarah remembered. After 4 days in hyperspace and weeks running from alien fleets, the sight of humanity's birth world brought tears to her eyes. But as the 6 surviving ships of the Resistance fleet approached the Sol system, Sarah's joy turned to horror. The space around Earth was filled with wreckage. "My God," Dr. Foster whispered from her sensor station. "Captain, I'm reading debris fields throughout the inner system. These aren't natural formations." Sarah leaned forward in her command chair, studying the tactical displays. Twisted metal drifted in slow orbits around Earth, pieces of ships and stations that had been torn apart by weapons fire. The closer they got to their home planet, the worse the destruction became. "Those are pieces of Luna Base," Torres reported grimly. "And that debris field near Mars, it looks like the orbital shipyards." Governor Martinez joined them on the bridge, his face pale as he took in the scope of destruction. "Sarah, what happened here? Who could have done this?" Sarah activated their long-range communications array, searching for any transmission from Earth government or military forces. What she found made her blood run cold. The communication channels were filled with alien voices speaking in the harsh consonants of Zorati military code. Dr. Foster, translate those transmissions. Foster worked quickly, her face growing paler by the minute. "Captain, it's a military occupation force. The Zorati arrived 3 days ago with a fleet of over 200 ships. Earth's home fleet tried to resist, but..." She gestured at the debris fields surrounding them. "What about the planet's surface?" "Orbital bombardment of all major military installations." The government was given an ultimatum: complete surrender or total destruction. They surrendered 6 hours ago. Sarah felt a rage building in her chest that dwarfed anything she had experienced during the battle at Kepler Station. While they had been fighting for their lives in the outer colonies, Earth itself had fallen to the same aliens who had committed genocide against human settlements. Any word from our people on the surface? Torres worked his communication console frantically. I'm picking up scattered resistance transmissions. Military units that went underground before the surrender. They're asking for any fleet elements to avoid the Sol system. Too late for that, Sarah muttered. She opened a channel to the other 5 ships in their convoy. All vessels, this is Captain Chun. As you can see, Earth has fallen to the same forces that destroyed our colonies. We're now the only free human fleet in known space. Captain Morrison's voice crackled over the channel from the deep striker. Orders, Captain. Sarah looked around at her bridge crew, these people who had followed her from one impossible battle to another. 26,000 refugees aboard 6 damaged ships, facing an occupation force of 200 alien warships. By any rational calculation, they should surrender immediately. But Sarah Chun had stopped being rational weeks ago. We're going to liberate our home world, she announced. And we're going to do it in a way that ensures the galaxy never forgets the price of attacking humanity. Captain, Dr. Foster protested. We can't fight 200 ships with 6. It's suicide. We're not going to fight them, Sarah replied with a cold smile. We're going to destroy them. Dr. Foster, what do you know about Earth's quantum communication array? Foster consulted her database. It's the most powerful transmission system in human space, capable of instantaneous communication across the entire galaxy. Why? Because we're going to use it to send a message that every species in the Council will receive. A demonstration of what happens when you corner humanity. Sarah called up a tactical display of the Sol system. The array is located on Luna's far side, in the old research complex. If we can reach it, we can broadcast to every world simultaneously. Broadcasting what? Governor Martinez asked. Sarah's expression grew darker. Proof that the human spirit cannot be broken. Evidence that genocide has consequences. A promise that Earth will have its revenge. Captain Wang's voice came over the communication channel. Captain, I've been monitoring Zorati fleet positions. They're concentrated around Earth's orbital space, but they've got patrol squadrons throughout the system. Getting to Luna undetected will be nearly impossible. Then, we don't try to hide, Sarah decided. We go in fighting. All ships prepare for combat operations. We're going to punch through their lines and reach Luna's communication array. Sarah, Morrison's voice carried a note of concern. Even if we reach the array, the Zorati will just destroy it to stop our transmission. Not if we give them something more important to worry about. Sarah activated the ship-wide intercom, addressing all 26,000 refugees aboard their small fleet. People of humanity, this is your captain speaking. We have returned to find our home world occupied by the same forces that destroyed our colonies. Throughout the 6 ships, refugees listened to Sarah's words with growing determination. These were people who had lost everything once already. They understood that this might be their last chance to strike back. The Zorati think they have broken humanity by conquering Earth. They believe that with our home world in chains, our spirit will finally be crushed. They're about to learn how wrong they are. Sarah looked out at Earth, her beautiful blue world now scarred by orbital weapons and alien occupation. Today we show the galaxy what humans become when they have nothing left to lose. Today we prove that some things are worth dying for. The 6 ships of the Resistance fleet began accelerating toward the inner system, their courses set for Luna and its precious communication array. Behind them, Zorati patrol squadrons detected the approaching human vessels and began converging for an intercept. Zorati squadron approaching from the asteroid belt, Torres reported. 8 ships, heavy cruiser configuration. Dr. Foster, what's left of our weapons? 43 missiles of various types, plus whatever improvised armaments the other ships have managed to fabricate during our journey home. Sarah nodded grimly. It would have to be enough. All ships, engage incoming targets. Fight through them. The space around Earth's moon erupted in weapons fire as human ships met Zorati forces in desperate battle. Sarah watched her tactical display as Captain Morrison's deep striker traded volleys with a heavy cruiser twice its size. The mining ship's improvised weapons couldn't penetrate military armor, but Morrison had other ideas. Deep striker ramming speed, came the call over the communication channel. Sarah watched in shock as the mining ship accelerated directly toward the Zorati cruiser, her armored hull designed to punch through asteroid cores. The alien ship tried to maneuver away, but Morrison's final course correction sent his vessel directly into the cruiser's engine section. Both ships vanished in a brilliant explosion that lit up local space. "Morrison's given us an opening," Wong called out. "All ships, follow the Perseverance through the gap." The remaining 5 human ships raced through the debris field created by Morrison's sacrifice, dodging energy blasts from surviving Zorti vessels. Sarah felt tears streaming down her face as she realized that one of her fellow captains had just died to give them a chance at reaching Luna. "More contacts approaching from Earth orbit," Torres warned. "Looks like a full squadron, 15 ships minimum." Sarah looked at the tactical display, showing impossible odds. 5 damaged human ships against 15 fresh alien warships, with more reinforcements on the way. They might reach Luna, but they would never survive long enough to complete their mission, unless they changed the rules of engagement. "Dr. Foster, what would happen if we overloaded our quantum drives simultaneously?" Foster's face went pale as she understood the implication. "Captain, that would create a massive space-time distortion. The energy release would be equivalent to a small star going supernova. Would it destroy the approaching Zorati fleet? It would destroy everything within 100,000 kilometers, including us." Sarah nodded slowly. "And would the explosion be visible from Earth?" "Captain, it will be visible from the outer planets." "But, Sarah, you're talking about sacrificing 26,000 people. I'm talking about ensuring that humanity's sacrifice means something." Sarah activated the fleet communication channel. "All ships, this is Captain Sean with a final mission update. We cannot reach Luna and complete our transmission with the current Zorti response. I am proposing an alternative." She paused, knowing that her next words would commit thousands of people to death. "We can overload our quantum drives and create an explosion that will destroy the alien fleet in this sector. It will be a signal to every human on Earth that resistance is possible. It will be a message to the galaxy that humanity does not surrender." The communication channel fell silent as the implications sank in. Finally, Captain Wong's voice came across the static. "Captain, I have 4,000 refugees aboard my ship. Many of them are children. Are you asking me to murder them?" Sarah looked out at Earth, thinking about the millions of humans who were now slaves in their own world. "I'm asking you to ensure their deaths have meaning. The Zorati expect us to surrender when faced with impossible odds. Instead, we're going to show them what humans do when they have nothing left to lose." One by one, the other captains voiced their agreement. These people had seen their worlds burned, their families murdered, their civilizations scattered to the stars. If they were going to die, they would make their deaths count. "All ships, begin quantum drive overload procedures," Sarah ordered. "Dr. Foster, prepare the message we discussed. Broadcast it on all frequencies as soon as the drives reach critical mass." The next few minutes were organized chaos as engineering teams throughout the small fleet began the delicate process of overloading their quantum cores. The Zorati squadron continued closing, apparently unaware of what the human ships were planning. "Quantum cores at 80% of critical mass," Kim Park reported from the engine room. "Estimate 3 minutes to cascade failure." Sarah activated the ship-wide intercom one final time. "People of humanity, in 3 minutes we will light a star in Earth's sky. That star will burn away the darkness of alien occupation and remind our world that humans never surrender." She looked around the bridge at her crew, these extraordinary people who had followed her from peaceful cargo runs to the greatest act of defiance in human history. "It has been an honor serving with all of you." "Captain," Torres spoke quietly. "Incoming transmission from Earth's surface." "Military code." Sarah nodded for him to put it through. A crackling voice filled the bridge, speaking in the clipped tones of professional soldiers. "Unknown human fleet. This is Colonel James Mitchell of the Earth Resistance. We've been monitoring your approach. Whatever you're planning, we're ready to support it from the ground. Colonel, this is Captain Sarah Chun. We're about to send a message to the galaxy that will cost us everything. When you see the light, begin your uprising. Show the Zorati that conquering Earth is one thing, but holding it is another. Understood, Captain. The Earth remembers your sacrifice. We won't waste it. Quantum cores at 95% of critical mass, Kim reported. 60 seconds to cascade failure. DR. Foster looked up from her communication console. Message ready for broadcast, Captain. Full spectrum transmission to every world in the galaxy. Sarah nodded and settled back in her command chair, watching Earth grow larger on the main screen as their overloaded ships continued their final approach. In 1 minute, she and 26,000 refugees would become the brightest star in Earth's sky. Begin transmission, she ordered. Dr. Foster's fingers moved over her console, and suddenly Sarah's voice was echoing across the galaxy, reaching every world, every species, every member of the Galactic Council. To the species of the galaxy, this is Captain Sarah Chun of the Human Resistance. My fleet carries 26,000 survivors of the genocide you have committed against my people. We are the last free humans in known space. On the main screen, Earth continued to grow larger as their doomed ships raced toward the planet they would never see again. You believed that humans were weak. You thought we would submit to your superior numbers and technology. You assumed that we would accept extinction quietly. You were wrong. 30 seconds to critical mass, Kim announced. Sarah's voice carried across the galaxy with absolute conviction. We are the children of a world that tried to kill us every day for millions of years. We are the descendants of ancestors who fought ice ages, plagues, and predators with nothing but intelligence and determination. You cannot break what evolution forged in Earth's crucible. 20 seconds. Every human you murder makes the survivor stronger. Every colony you destroy teaches us new ways to fight. Every act of genocide you commit ensures that when humanity returns to the stars, we will remember who our enemies are. 10 seconds to cascade failure. Kim's voice remained steady despite the tears streaming down her face. Sarah stood up from her command chair, looking out at Earth one final time. This is our promise to you, Galactic Council. This is our oath to the universe. Humanity will return. We will reclaim our colonies. We will rebuild our civilization. And when we do, we will remember every world that participated in our genocide. Critical mass achieved. The quantum cores of 5 human ships began to fail simultaneously, their containment fields collapsing in a cascade of exotic matter and twisted space-time. Sarah felt the deck plates vibrating as reality itself began to break down around them. This is Captain Sarah Chun, signing off. The Earth remembers. The explosion that followed lit up the Sol system like a second sun. The energy release vaporized the approaching Zorati squadron and sent shockwaves racing across local space. On Earth's surface, billions of humans looked up to see a new star burning where their liberators had died. That star became the signal for the largest coordinated uprising in Earth's history. From the ruins of New York to the underground bunkers beneath Tokyo, human resistance fighters emerged from hiding to strike at their alien occupiers. The Zorati had expected to rule a broken, defeated world. Instead, they found themselves fighting a planet full of humans who had just learned that their species would never surrender. The explosion also sent a different kind of shock wave racing across the galaxy. Every species in the Galactic Council received Sarah Chun's final message, her promise that humanity would return. For the first time, many aliens began to question whether the genocide had been wise. Some species had been bullied into supporting the action against humanity. Others had remained silent while injustice was done in their name. All of them now understood that they had created an enemy that would never forget, never forgive, and never stop fighting until justice was served. On Earth, Colonel Mitchell led his resistance forces against Zorati positions throughout the occupied planet. As they fought, they carried with them the memory of Captain Sarah Chun and 26,000 humans who had chosen to become a star rather than submit to tyranny. The Galactic Council had tried to erase humanity from the stars. Instead, they had forged humanity into something harder than any metal.